So this plant in this chicken planter is called Schlumbergera gaertneri. And this is one of those plants that was in Hatiora and it was in Ripsolidaceae. It was in so many different genera, but I think it's now settled into Schlumbergera. Maybe because there's been a little bit more genetic studies, or maybe there's been a closer inspection of the flowers of this plant and it looks a little bit more Schlumbergera-esque. I actually haven't done too much research in that, so I'm not able to tell you, but you can tell that this is an Easter cactus because the Easter cactus have these little tufts, these little felted tufts on top of here. And I have to say that if this plant actually hybridizes, because the Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas cactus, they all have so many different cultivars and hybrids, so trying to figure out the parentage of some of those plants is actually much more challenging. But the Easter cactus generally has these slightly scalloped, rounded edges, so they don't usually come to points, which is typically what you would see in like Schlumbergera truncata, or like the Thanksgiving cactus, or some of the Christmas cacti. And also it has these little tufts, and the flower is slightly different. So I'm not going to showcase it here in 365 days of plants because it's just too much editing, but I did get a beautiful time lapse that I put up on my Instagram back in the day of my Easter cactus blooming, which, as you could see, it's not blooming here, but it gives really beautiful fire red, engine orange, reddish color blooms during the Easter season. So actually you could see, if I turn this around, you could see some of the old blooms here. But this is a jungle cactus and it is native to Brazil. So you're going to want to give it some water and then let it dry out. Typically you'd want to grow it in an epiphytic mix. I actually have mine growing in the grower's pot here, and I just set it into this chicken because this chicken is just serving a little bit more as a cash po right now, which is just a decorative planter. And you could see that in this case, it starts to get a little bit more woody down here. And these plants will actually get woody, especially as they start to get larger and they start to trail over. I mean, I will probably have to repot this one within the next year or two because I would want it to kind of grow out. And for those of us who have some older varieties of Schlumbergera, they could get, as I mentioned, very, very big. Now, I've had no pest pressures with this plant whatsoever, so very A-okay there. I just think these are pretty hardy jungle cactus. So if you want something kind of blooming throughout the year, then probably get Schlumbergera, because you could get an Easter, a Thanksgiving, and a Christmas, and you'll have, blooms, periodically throughout the year. Additionally, as far as fertilizing goes, typically during the growing season, I will fertilize it with a really well-balanced fertilizer, so like a 1-1-1 or a 10-10-10 on a bi-weekly basis. And about 3 months leading up to the bloom, so this will typically bloom around April or May. So leading up to the 3 months from that, you're going to withhold a little bit more of the water. You're going to withhold a little bit more of the fertilizing in order to be able to help induce those blooms. It needs a photo period, so it needs a certain amount of day length and nighttime in order to be able to also induce those blooms. It's not necessarily an exact science. I mean, I've talked to a number of growers, and some growers will say, oh, well, you need about 14 hours of darkness or 12 hours of darkness. But I am not really, I'm giving it light. I'm growing it under like a grow light, and it has 12 hours, but it's also next to my northeast facing window, and I'm in the city, so there's always lights everywhere, and it just seems to bloom over and over again. So I don't think it needs to be that exact of a science for these plants. Otherwise, I'm just lucking out and being able to give it a good environment that it has in order to be able to bloom again. I should say, because everybody always asks me about my planters, this is one of the many chicken planters that I got, especially after having my bird Kippy, my little chicken Kippy, who has now since passed, rest her little chicken soul. But this one is done by an incredible artisan that is in Canada, and I can't think of her name, but I will include the link also below. And she does a bunch of chicken planters, which I bought from her. And so I'm just going to give her a shout out in the link below on my YouTube channel, because I really love these, and I think they just have such a character in their face as well.